Please welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and also educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovely. So I came across this video for you, and I thought to share why pan colored people are actually tired and like they are sick and tired of pan colored people's problem. I was able to put on some stage because there have actually been a discussion of who commits the highest crime rates. A lot of people are like, oh my god, black people. Like, I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of all the stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. But into this stitch, I like the fact that a lot of pan-colored people are coming out to the truth. Alright, let's
White people. If crime statistics really mattered to us, we would be talking about white men every damn day. We as white people love to throw around statistics when it comes to the black community. We love to misconstrue data about poverty rates, crime rates, single parent households. Here's the thing. If you really want to talk about problematic behavior in terms of statistics, we need to talk about white men. Most mass shootings in America? White men. School shootings? White men. Intimate partner violence, typically known as domestic violence? White men. Police brutality and systemic violence? White men. Online harassment and extremism? White men. Domestic terrorism? White men. Serial killers? White men. The demographic making up the vast majority of CEOs, judges, senators, and police chiefs who refuse to hold white men responsible? White men. And yet us white men are really talked about as being a problem. Few white people are asking, what's wrong with white men? What's wrong with the culture? Few white men are demanding that we be fixed. And why? Because we as white men humanize and individualize white violent offenders. And it's time to flip the script. It's shame and blame because I know white males are incredibly fragile when it comes to that. But instead to name what's really going on and who continues to be protected and not held accountable because of selective storytelling. I hope this helps.
Despite making up 13% of the population, black people commit more than 50% of crimes. Number one, shut up. Number two, the statistic is racist. And number three, I'm going to explain why to other white people who are stupid to not understand what this means. Number one, black communities are heavily over-policed, meaning they are more likely to be targeted by police officers than people who are, say, white. The second reason, white people have more connections to police officers around the country, meaning that if they are arrested, it's easier for them to get off and have nothing on their record. The third reason is that if you don't know this, the CIA actually did introduce drugs to low-income black areas. Not to mention, the first police department in America was designed to be a, quote, slave patrol to bring an enslaved person back to that plantation. So if you have any critical thinking skills at all, you would understand it's not that black people commit more crimes, it is that they are arrested, prosecuted, and treated inhumanely to the point that they are vastly overrepresented in our prison system.
One way that I knew that white patriarchal supremacy was failing here in America in particular was when I observed that college-educated white people now were suffering under the same system that was supposed to benefit them the most. See, we didn't have a student loan debt crisis until college-educated white graduates could no longer pay their student loans. We didn't have a housing crisis until college-educated white people could no longer afford a starter home or the mortgage or the interest rate for a starter home or family home, etc. All of those things, student loan debt, being unable to find work after graduating from college despite being qualified, being unable to afford a nice home or property for your family to build wealth and to build status through inheritance and passing down and whatnot. All of those things have long been challenges for black people and for people of color, even with all of our college degrees, our certificates, our etc., etc. But it didn't all become a crisis until college-educated white people started to suffer. And if you really want to sweat thinking about this, poor white people who are especially disingenuous as being like some of the largest demographic of Trump-supporting Republicans were this one suffering the most under the same white patriarchal supremacist system. The fuck was that? Anyway, the ancestors are just agreeing with what I'm saying, basically. But poor white people being so disingenuous and being the largest subgroup of Trump-supporting Republican voters were sitting here suffering as impoverished Americans without access to college education and upward mobility and whatnot. And we're still upholding and enforcing through violence the systems of white patriarchal supremacy. As I've said previously, white patriarchal supremacy was always destined to fail because it was built on a system of privilege, and who can access that privilege was always going to be a changing definition. So white gentry could access it by virtue of birth, by virtue of their wealth and nobility status, at birth by virtue of the family that they were born into. Then it had to change to accommodate white men who were not born into the gentry, who were not born into land-owning, wealthy, powerful families. Then it had to change to accommodate white men who were not Protestant. Then it had to change to accommodate white women. Then it had to change to accommodate white people. Then it had to change to accommodate foreign people of color. It had to change to accommodate biracial and mixed race people, etc., etc. That privilege was always a changing definition by virtue of human action and human action over time. It was always going to change and thus was always going to fail. Why we have neo-Nazism and why we have fascism and Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and all this shit popping up now is because now white people are being subjected to the systemic institutionalized violence that black people and people of color were always subjected to. Right? But the white patriarchal supremacy being the self-eating snake it was really only a matter of time before the definition of who is privileged in America would change. So now that the definition of who has access to power, who has access to college education, who has access to home ownership, who has access to upward economic and financial mobility has changed and has varied to include wider groups of people. Now the self-eating snake has to adjust how it eats and how it subjugates and oppresses. And so it turns to a wider, bigger population, a bigger demographic of people to subjugate and oppress. And who else is left but other white people? Because black people have already been subjugated and oppressed. Non-black people of color have already been subjugated and oppressed. Please see Native Americans. Non-black people of color who are foreigners have already been subjugated and oppressed. So the snake looks around like, well, I've eaten all of these people. I've conquered all of these people. Who else is next? Because I'm hungry. I still have to eat. I am a snake. I am a viper. I still have to eat. I still have to consume in order to stay alive. And if now college-educated middle-class white people are all that's left, they're going to be consumed as well. Too bad, so sad. It was unheard of that a college-educated white person couldn't find a good job after graduating from university. That was the whole point of getting a college degree. It was unheard of that college-educated white people were struggling with failure to launch and moving out of familial homes in their 20s and 30s. It was unheard of that college-educated white people were working in the service industry in menial manual labor jobs despite having a college degree and being white. That was unheard of, and it didn't become a crisis until it started impacting college-educated white people. That self-eating snake is eating them up now too, and it has always been eating us, so we've always had to adapt. We've always had to rely on one another. We've always had to change. We've always had to live on the outside, be on the outside looking in. We've always had to delay certain life milestones like home ownership and marriage, etc., and finally achieving a good paying job and being debt free. We've always had to delay those things. But now college educated white people are getting just a small little teensy-weensy little taste sampling of what black people and people of color have always lived with in this country since this country's inception. And what do? Turn to neo-fascism. They turn to white supremacy. They turn to neo-Nazism. What did I say a while back? Poor white people who are Republican Trump supporting voters are extremely disingenuous because they're upholding a system that oppresses them too. They know that and they don't give a fuck. What they're hoping is that the self-eating steak will stop eating them and turn on the rest of us instead. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. One of the things that I truly honestly despise about white supremacy and white supremacist institutions and societies like America is that white supremacy gives all white people a sense of credibility. It gives them credence and it gives them identity, right? Whether they are white and poor, which is most white people, let's be clear, there are only like 5 or 6 well-known, wealthy white families. The rest of you are not part of the 1%, and quite frankly, are probably not even part of the 100%. If we're keeping it a buck, you have to work for a living, and then when you retire, you have to rely on Social Security and Medicare so you don't die slowly, agonizingly, and painfully. But that's another discussion, right? So whether a white person is poor, whether they're disabled, whether they're LGBTQ+, whether they have brown hair, whether they have blonde hair, they're still white, and their whiteness alone, because of centuries of oppression, gives them automatic credibility. It's an automatic, like, in club that they're all a part of. It's an open secret. It's a silent acknowledgement of identity amongst themselves. This is why so many of our Caucasian brothers and sisters were so adamant and so excited in the wake of Kamala Harris being the Democratic presidential nominee, and we're going to all those rallies and we had all these social media hashtags and trends and everything like that. The silent agreement among most white people was that, yeah, we're gonna smile and ooh, yeah, we're so excited, yeah, but when we get in that voting booth, we need to lock in. Okay, because what white people won't openly admit is that in their minds, answering to a white fascist dictator like Trump is just a small price to pay for answering to someone who is in power, who is still white. At the end of the day, losing their jobs, losing their health care, losing their social safety net, losing their footing, losing all their grounding, losing their families, their homes, their ability to eat, etc. Those are all just small prices to pay because most white people are quite content being oppressed if they're being oppressed by another white person. And if you don't believe me, look to 2 sources. One, the data from the exit polls breaking down who voted for Trump by race and by gender. And 2, again, the same data from the exit polls looking at the number of college-educated white women who voted for Trump. College-educated white women who, by and large, pursue liberal arts and social science degrees, where they spend 4 years minimum talking about oppressive systems and institutions. So they should really know better. Not my laundry buzzer going off while I'm talking. Anyway, that's what I truly hate about white supremacy. It's an automatic in club, and everyone else is left out of it. That's why we don't celebrate, like, White History Month or what have you, is because whiteness is based on what you're not, as opposed to just a celebration of culture and traditions and survival in the face of certain autocratic regimes or the face of enslavement or Jim Crow laws or whatever. It's like an automatic in club for them. It's a silent agreement when they're in rooms with one another. It doesn't matter what they say they vote for, what platforms they publicly say that they support. When they get in that anonymous private voting booth, all that shit goes out the fucking window. Systemic institutionalized white supremacy is the sole reason why a country like America is simultaneously the wealthiest country in the world and simultaneously does not have any federal widespread social safety nets for its citizens, and the few social safety nets that are available, called entitlements, that we have to wait until old age to receive, are on the chopping block every single time a Republican comes into power. That is why we have countries who are communist countries, countries that are socialist, countries that don't touch America's GDP or military power or might, and yet their citizens have better qualities of life than America does. White supremacy is the reason why that is. White people who survived the first Trump administration looked around and said, my suffering is A-okay with me if black people are suffering too, if brown people and non-black people of color and immigrants are suffering too, right? Watching all those people being deported and having their heads shaved and being publicly dehumanized and sent off to God knows where to probably never be seen again, while white people are here sitting here wondering how they're going to pay their bills now that the government agency they worked for no longer exists, and the Medicare and the Social Security they live off of will soon no longer exist. That is A-okay with them. They will walk right into the gulag. They will walk right into the human concentration camps voluntarily, willingly, might I add, happily, if it means that the person running the concentration camp is another white person. They're okay with being oppressed. History has shown us this. The fact that there are still monarchies in European countries tells us this. Data from exit polls tells us this. It is just a small price to pay. That's why we can't get through to them with messaging or with statistics or with facts or with logical arguments. Nothing will get through to them because they don't want to be gotten through to. That's just it. So leave them. Leave them to suffer. And quite frankly, I'm beginning to agree with the Democrats and their kind of hands-off approach, because this cycle happens every single time, right? Republicans come in, slash funding to every fucking thing that's not war or business related, increase taxes on everyone except billionaires, and then the economy is in shite. Everything's a fucking mess. People become tired and elect a Democrat. A Democrat comes in, fixes the problem, and then institutes public policy that would positively impact everyone, including people who are not white, and put not white people in power. The same white people who are suffering under the Republican president now turn on the Democratic leadership, vote in another Republican, and then demand that Democrats turn around and save them. Like, lather, rinse, repeat is literally what that cycle is. So I agree with the Democrats. Hands off. Give the people exactly what they want. After all, who are we to argue with the will of tens of millions of Americans? At this stage, let America get exactly what America wants. That's all we can do. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Poor white people should know that they're voting against their best interests. Poor white people need to see the light, that voting for rich billionaires doesn't help them. They see the light. They know what they're doing. They know that they're voting against their interests. They know, and they don't care. They're angry and upset that their whiteness has not saved them from the doldrums of being poor, and they know in the depths of their poor white souls that they do not have the skills, the ambition, or the smarts to survive in a world that requires all of those things to not be poor. Let me tell you something right here, right now. Poor black people and poor people of color become disillusioned and, become jaded. That's it. Poor white people become domestic terrorists and mass shooters. This is why our efforts to build bridges, to build community, to reach across the aisle, to do all of those things fail time and time again, because we're dealing with a group of individuals who know that they have experienced generations of life-altering poverty as the result of actions from other white people who are wealthy and privileged. They know good and goddamn well that black people just got the right to vote less than 60 years ago. So it's not black people, and it's certainly not immigrants and people of color who are making the policy and legislative decisions that render poor white people poor. It's not black people and people of color making those policy decisions. It's other white people, privileged, college-educated white people who are making those decisions. And poor white people know this. Fundamentally, they know this. They are just that full of hate and insist upon directing their hate towards black people and towards people of color, because at their core, they're racist no matter what. That's what you have to understand about white supremacy and about many, 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 many white people in general. No matter how disenfranchised they may be on the basis of income, on the basis of lack of education, on the basis of disability, on the basis of neurodivergence, on the basis of LGBTQ status, whatever it is, they're still white, and they will still cling to that white privilege especially when they have no other privileges or systems of power with which to cling. That is why trying to build community and solidarity with many poor white people, especially in rural areas, falls short. Even when there are poor white people who see the vision, who see the light, and who try to rally their Caucasian brothers and sisters in arms, those poor white people who see the vision, they're vastly outnumbered, outgunned, outmanned by these other poor white folks who sit up there with generations of rural poverty and vote for someone like Donald Trump. Thank you for coming.
This is actually so easy to come out and talk about how, black people are the ones who commit the highest crime rates. Like, these people are loud, they're ghetto, they're this, they're that, without even for once try to calculate things statistically. They just want to create, some people, especially, you know who we're talking about, want to create a particular narrative of seeing people that looks like me as, oh my god, dangerous, they're loud, they're this, they commit crime, like they do that, they do this, without properly making their own inquiries or investigation. Let's talk about the school pupils and all of that. It has been recorded that the highest people who commit the highest number of pupils are from, and this is just the truth. There's this particular stage that have been on the social platform. It's a discourse that have been on social platform for a while right now. They were talking about the black fatigue, where some group of fan color people were like, oh my god, we're just so tired of black people complaining. Oh my goodness, oh my god. So, but there's this particular stage by a pan colored man complaining and sharing his experience, and which have actually made him to dislike people that looks like me for over 40 years. He went as far as to share an encounter he had with, it's just, you know a black dude, just an encounter that that doesn't have nothing to do with maybe the color of his skin being, black, white, or whatsoever. He was like, oh, I was going to work one day, and he came across a black dude who was probably, he overtook, like he was talking about overtaking a vehicle, like the guy overtook him and all of that. But this is actually something that some people does. Like, people want to overtake you on a ride, like it doesn't have anything to do with race. But this young man, he was like, because of that incident, or like 40 years of his life, he has had people that looks like me in his mind, and he just so tired of our character, even the character that is exhibited by normal, like a normal percentage of people, not even caring if you are black, or they just deem it, oh, black people. Like, what is really wrong with people? What is wrong with some people, with some racist people? Even when they see the truth in front of them, they just don't want you to like, okay, this is the truth. And this is just so irritating sometimes. So many people claim on how black people have high crime rate. Oh my god, that the ones, but everybody do not want to talk about the ones that happens in the pan colored community. Like, it's just giving, when you dislike some group of people, no matter what these people does, even when these people are just trying their best to be a better human being, they will still discredit these people. This is just what is given. It's just what is given. And the way at which the system has been built, it was built to see, thank Allah, people are the, oh my god, the people who can never do anything wrong, the people who are always right, the people who are always like, and people that looks like me are the ones who always go against the rules and regulation. I wouldn't dispute the fact that sometimes, you know people can just get over your nerves and you just have to react. And when you react, that is when they'll point it like, oh, we knew it, you are loud. Like, this is just giving gaslighting. It's just giving, oh. And I like the fact that this conversation is being among the, pan-colored and white communities and all of that, because they're beginning to see the truth. Even when the system has made everything possible for people to see the truth is revealing itself. Anyway, lovely, so just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please, lovely, if you're not subscribed to this channel up to this extent, please do get a huge button to click on the subscription button, like, and I will see you, lovely, when I upload the next comment one. Section of what you think of this video. Please subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that. Like, and I will see you, lovely, when I upload the next one.